Roleplay in Adult Education for ADED 7056 by Rachel Fournier and Tabb. The objectives for this presentation are to define roleplay, to explain the use and effectiveness of roleplay in adult education, to demonstrate roleplay in academic and online learning settings, to discuss the advantages of roleplay, to demonstrate roleplay in a face-to-face setting, to give our conclusion, and to provide questions for consideration.
This slide includes two famous quotes relative to role play. The first, "Tell me and I forget," "Teach me and I remember," "Involve me and I learn," by Benjamin Franklin. The second quote, "You don't just learn knowledge, you have to create it. Get in the driver's seat, don't just be a passenger. You have to contribute to it or you don't understand it," by Dr. W. Edward Deming.
What is roleplay? Roleplay is a teaching method that involves one or more participants who act out a scenario. In the article, Online Roleplay Environments for Higher Education, Russell and Shepard describe roleplay as a world where students can create and explore newly learned information and develop abstract ideas into meaningful experiences. They go on to say that during a role-play situation, students are taken through an experiential learning experience. The learner is exposed to a complex, holistic social learning experience. Role-play gives the learner the opportunity to make mistakes in a controlled, comfortable environment before encountering the scenario in a real-world experience. Role-plays can be used in both face-to-face interactions as well as during an online experience.
There are several benefits to role-playing. As Galbraith indicated in Facilitating Adult Learning, a Transactional Process, the benefits of role-playing include showing the strengths and weaknesses and consequences of certain behaviors or attitudes, and bringing to life theoretical or philosophical concepts. Additionally, role-playing benefits both the participants and the observers by the activity providing a non-threatening channel to express feelings. Here, the observer can feel comfortable asking hypothetical questions, for example. Also, role-playing brings novelty or innovation and creativity into the adult learning situation. The activity provides several solutions to a problem. Role-playing has been found to be effective in terms of helping people identify and analyze their taken-for-granted assumptions. The variant of role-play known commonly as role reversal is probably the most effective technique, as explained by Stephen Brookfield in Developing Critical Thinkers, published in 1987. This item is published or cited in Galbraith's Facilitating Adult Learning, a Transactional Process. A major value to participants is that it helps them integrate the cognitive and affective dimensions of their learning. This technique is used in negotiations, seminars, marital counseling, and industrial relations training. The VARK is one of the many ways of looking at learning. The VARK is a questionnaire for individuals to determine their preferred learning style. With the VARK, there are four modalities: the visual learner, auditory learner, reading, writing, and kinesthetic learner. We have provided here a resource or a hyperlink to the VARK questionnaire if you are interested in taking the questionnaire on your own or simply learning more about the four modalities here at the bottom. In brief, the visual learner likes pictures and illustrations. They prefer to learn through seeing things. For audio, or the auditory learner prefers to listen to a lecture. They are great listeners. These persons prefer to repeat and follow verbal instructions. The print or read-write type learner prefers reading books. This person learns better after seeing and writing something. For the purpose of this presentation, we are concerned more with the kinesthetic learner. By definition, this modality refers to the preference of real-world experience and practice. It is connected to reality, either through concrete personal experiences, examples, practice, or simulation, as explained in Fleming and Mills's Not Another Inventory, rather a catalyst for reflection. These learners learn best through role-playing, dramas, games, and other relative hands-on experience activities. Furthermore, the kinesthetic learner does not do well sitting through lectures. The kinesthetic learner prefers group activities and likes experiments. Also, the kinesthetic learner prefers to learn by doing and direct involvement. This learning pyramid is by the National Training Laboratories. You see teaching others, practice doing, discussion, demonstration, audiovisual, reading, and lecturing. Lecturing and reading demonstrates of having the least rate of retention for the average student. Now take a close look. Teaching others is at 90% and practice doing is at 75%. Both practice doing and teaching others are direct actions of role play. This learning pyramid demonstrates that the average student will remember better if they are involved in doing something, whether by practice and also by the method of teaching others. Peter Reiner, in The Art of Teaching Adults, How to Become an Exceptional Instructor and Facilitator, suggests 4 distinct phases to integrate or carry out a successful role play in adult learning. Setting the stage is the first phase. This phase or step requires the facilitator to start with a discussion about the topic. This can be done with an outline about the practice, or the facilitator may ask the observers questions to think about during the role play. Conducting the role play is the second phase. In this step, participants should approach the scenario with comfort and confidence while conducting the role play. Remember, the role play should be lively and demonstrate lifelike enhancement. It should be exciting and fun. Next, reflect or debrief the action. This phase allows the facilitator to summarize the scenario and clarify the objectives. This step also provides helpful feedback about the role play. And lastly, discuss the role play. Here, the facilitator should explore questions from the observers and participants immediately after the role play. What have you learned, or what questions do you have, are great open-ended questions to start with. Altogether, these 4 phases, as Reiner explained, will aid the facilitator in integrating a successful role play activity in adult learning. Greetings. Today we will demonstrate a mock interview using the method of role play for a job interview. Go ahead and get started. Hi. Good morning, Michelle Dyke. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great, Ms. Tabb. How are you?
Good. Why don't you take a seat?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, again, thank you, Michelle, for coming in for the interview. We're delighted to have you as an applicant. Can we start first by you just telling me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I have over 5 years experience in the customer service field, and through this field, I've really learned that I have a passion for communication and all the things that come with the field of communication. I love people and I love talking to people, and to this day, I have relationships with people who I have established a rapport with through certain jobs that I've held.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, for the jobs that you have held, would you say that you enjoy working with people?
Most definitely. That's one of the most valuable things that I enjoy with this field, because you're able to interact with so many different types of people and learn different things through other people's perspectives. And I think there is so many different ways that we can take information, that we can learn things. So that's why communication has just become my life. I love it.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's a great response. Now, one thing about this position, the communication specialist, is that we're looking for the applicant to ensure that they have some international scope experience. And I read on your resume and also having talked to your references that you have studied abroad. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and how that sort of relates to this communication specialist job?
Of course, I had a wonderful opportunity with Troy to study abroad in the field of communications, of course, and that opportunity really gave me a wider scope of the essence of people. And like I said, I feel that that relates to my communication field because you're able to see how other people live, and I was able to teach English to children, which kind of really broadened me in how I see the field of communications, because we still have to communicate even though they're in a different language, even though they're 7, 8, 9 years old, we still have to be able to find ways to communicate. So I think that I will be able to bring a diverse perspective to this company that I think will be an asset.
Okay, absolutely. That sounds good. You really gave way to the last question I have in terms of why should we hire you at Turner Broadcasting?
Well, not only do I have this passion for communication, but I do feel like the training, the education, and the experience that I have has given me the proper tools to be a valuable asset to this company. And along with that, I have a very positive attitude, and I really think that if you have a positive attitude, then any situation can be worked out and dealt with, and the problem can always be solved. And I feel like if you're passionate about what you do, then you'll love doing it, and it won't feel like work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taddy. It was a pleasure.
Okay, likewise. That ends our long interview with the demonstration of role play.
In workforce education, adult students are learning new skills for a particular job. Adult workforce education calls for a variety of methods to train employees. Trainers should create a learning experience that allows students to retain information and at the same time engage the student. According to the article Engaging Learners, Techniques to Make Training Stick, Fanning points out that a majority of training is carried out through lecture, which can often be the least engaging for students. Role play is a useful method not only to engage students, but it allows them to practice newly learned information. Fanning continues that although there are drawbacks, such as the amount of time needed to prepare for a role play experience, the role play grants students the ability to enact the situation rather than merely talking about it. Role play is a commonly used technique in foreign language classrooms. As a foreign language teacher, I am very familiar with this method and see the impact it has on my own students in terms of retention. The role play method provides students with fun and creative ways to practice their communication skills in the target language. In the classroom, scenarios are created to mimic real-world situations, such as going to an airport, and culture is better understood by creating situations where the student must act and react in the target culture. In her book, Teaching Language in Context, Hadley explains that the teacher or facilitator should precisely plan each activity. Being prepared and planning carefully will provide for a meaningful role play experience for the student. Role play can also be adapted for an online learning experience. Like the face-to-face role play, online role play should provide the necessary tools for learners to be successful. In the following video, you will see an example of how role play can be adapted for online use. Before assigning the role play, facilitators should give explicit instructions, provide context, allow time for reflection, and maintain a discussion about the experience. The website onlinecolleges.net, Center for Online Education, provides a host of online role play games for educational purposes. A role-play game is a game where the learner can enter a virtual world and play out their character and scenario. This site has role-play games for business and management, games for students, training games, health and medical games, humanitarian and environmental games, political games, and sites with multiple games. One example that I found interesting was Stop Disasters. This online role-play game might be used by emergency management trainees or volunteers, city planners, or managers in order to become better skilled about making decisions about how to protect people and property during a natural disaster. The role-play game allows the learners to choose from a variety of situations. They first select a scenario. They can choose a tsunami in Southeast Asia, a wildfire in Central Australia, a flood in Eastern and Central Europe, a hurricane in the Caribbean, and an earthquake in Middle and Eastern Mediterranean. I will choose a hurricane because I live near the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean, where hurricanes commonly strike. I will then select a difficulty level. The game first sets the stage by explaining the situation and giving parameters and the mission. This Caribbean town is a thriving community with a population of 180 people who rely mainly on fishing and tourism for their livelihoods. You have to protect as many people, buildings, and livelihoods as you can against a possible hurricane. Your challenge is to provide accommodation for 330 people, build a hospital and a school. You must also anchor the boats in the port to prepare them for the strong winds. Think about what you can do to protect people and their property against hurricanes. You have a choice of different housing, and many upgrades and defenses are also available. Choose the best option and save as many people as you can afford. You will have a budget of $50,000 and around 25 minutes to work. A hurricane will arrive soon, and then it will be too late. The player can then choose various selections to protect their island. Defenses, such as trees, mangroves, or sand dunes. They can develop hospitals, schools, and other shelters. And they're even provided with information. Once the 25 minutes has ended, the disaster strikes and the learner will find out if they have failed or succeeded in their mission. Students should then be given time to reflect on the experience. The facilitator may then maintain a discussion. Students can then take their experience and create a new scenario, becoming more skilled at disaster planning each time. In conclusion, role-play is an extremely effective teaching method which can be used in a variety of situations. Students take control of the learning process, and this teaching method allows the learner to practice real-life situations in creative and innovative ways. Through the role-play experience, learners are actively participating and are engaged. Role-play situations play an important role in helping students to become more confident and more comfortable in performing in real-world contexts. Here we have 2 questions for consideration. 1. How can you implement role-play into your classroom? And 2. According to the learning pyramid, the average student retains 90% of what they teach others and 75% of what they practice doing. Do you agree or disagree, and why? In this slide, we have left you with a list of references in case you would like to refer to them later. If you have any questions, please let us know. We thank you for your time and hope you have enjoyed listening to our presentation.